all interesting to you. Okay, without getting too preachy, I promise. Okay, so I was just going to let people know what veganism is first real quick. So veganism is the practice of abstaining from animal products and their byproducts. So that would include like meat, fish, dairy, eggs, like anything else that would have animal products in it, which would include things like gelatin, casein is a derivative of dairy, honey for leather, that kind of stuff. And then I also have a lot of links on my slides. So I'll make sure that we publish it later on our Facebook pages so that people can use the links if they want. They were just for resources to back up what I'm letting you know today. So there's a spectrum of vegetarianism, and a lot of people will fall anywhere on the list. So I know a lot of people that abstain from all red meats, but they still will still eat poultry and fish for health reasons mostly. Similarly, pescatarians don't eat any meat except for seafood. A flexitarian, like, they eat mostly a vegetarian diet with some exceptions and, just like cheat days basically. And vegetarian is abstaining from meat. Ovo-vegetarian would be someone who doesn't eat dairy or meat, but they're okay with eggs, which is what I first did when I went vegan. I was still eating eggs. And then veganism as a diet, mostly that's people that go vegan for health reasons. And then vegan as a lifestyle is usually more common because most people go vegan for animal reasons. So if you're vegan as your lifestyle, not just a diet, that would include abstaining from any products that test on animals, anything that's not cruelty-free, and then also any like products that you might use, like beauty products and clothing, that kind of thing. And then also palm oil is something that some people don't consider vegan because of the unethical background in palm oil. And I really like freegans. Freegans are pretty cool. Basically, they're vegan for ethical reasons, but if there's free food, they'll eat it. Which is great. I have a couple friends that haven't had to buy their own food in over 2 months. So, because they just eat whatever people give them. So there's 3 main reasons for adopting veganism, and so like I said, the number 1 reason is for the animals, for the planet, and for health. Those are the 3 reasons most people are vegan. When I first went vegan, I personally I changed my diet for health reasons. I was trying to battle multiple health issues, and I just figured the easiest thing I could do was change my diet and change my exercise regime, which both things are proven to help with depression, other mental health disorders, and obviously if you're trying to lose weight, eat healthier. So I just said I can cut out meat and dairy because I don't eat much of either one anyways. And then when I got more into veganism, I met other vegans and I learned about like the animal ethics involved with it, and that kind of just like solidified it for me. And once I read into the environmental implications of the meat and dairy industry, that was kind of like no-go for me. So I'll just start with animal ethics. I'm just going to go over like the basic reasons real quick, and then we'll get into practical application. So these are just a list of some philosophers and ethicists that have written works pertaining to environmentalism or veganism, animal rights, that kind of thing. Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill are both utilitarians. They were the founders of modern utilitarianism, which is basically just the idea of doing the greatest good for the greatest number of people, which obviously would apply to animal ethics and veganism in general. Peter Singer is also a utilitarian, but he is like specifically focusing on animal rights. So those are just 2 of his works if you're interested in looking them up. Richard Posner is mostly focuses on anthropocentrism. Anthropocentrism is the idea of, have you guys heard of like heterocentrism, that kind of thing? Like any type of normativity for like that oppresses other individuals. So if you're heteronormative, that means you're oppressing non-heterosexual people. So the same idea applies to this. being anthropocentric, means you're just putting humans above any other type of living organism and taking precedence over others. And then ecofeminism is just relating how veganism, animal rights relate to how we treat the environment as a whole and also how we treat women and the connections between them. It's really interesting. If you're interested in like the feminism behind animal ethics, I would suggest reading either one of those ladies. And then biocentrism is basically the same idea as anthropocentrism. It's just putting like biological living organisms above plant-based living organisms, the environment in general. And so those two, Paul Taylor and James Sturba, talk about a lot about like how religion and ideologies have affected how we treat our environment and why we mistreat nature, and just making sure that we care about plants in general. Basically, the abuse of animals within the meat and dairy industry is a huge proponent for going vegan. They're very unethical. It's not good living conditions. I won't go into the details, but that's a huge issue. And the documentary Earthlings goes over the idea of speciesism, which is basically anthropocentrism, which is the idea of putting our species needs above everyone else's to the detriment of other animals. So basically it's just the argument for veganism is not whether or not we're superior to animals, but can they suffer? Because all living creatures, all sentient beings can suffer, and we should do our best to avoid their suffering. And also a big thing that's part of the animal industry is the exploitation of human beings, specifically like slave labor and child labor are two big things. So even if you don't necessarily care so much about animals, which is fine, the animal industry is very problematic if you care about humans. So, and you can do a lot of research on that. The living conditions and the work conditions are atrocious, and lots of other issues. Okay, so environmental welfare. So going vegan is the single most impactful thing you can do for the planet. That's been a quote that's used multiple times over by scientists and environmentalists. So there's another link for you. So animal agriculture is the leading cause of species extinction, ocean dead zones, water pollution, and habitat destruction. It also affects the well-being of indigenous tribes, indigenous people, because of all the destruction that we do in their natural habitats, and we're destroying anthropological sites at the same time. So that's like, obviously, bad for humans again. So we have a prediction that we'll have fishless oceans by 2048 because of the rate of which we're fishing right now on an industrial scale. Livestock covers 45% of the Earth's total land that we could be using for expanding human population so that we're not having all these industrial urban areas. So that takes up a lot of our precious land. 91% of Amazon destruction is because of the animal agriculture. We're clearing about 1 acre of rainforest per second because of how much land we're using for animal agriculture. It's 18% of greenhouse gas emissions, and that's mostly carbon dioxide and methane are what the animals give off themselves. And ozone is also another greenhouse gas emission. And then it's also related to our emissions as humans. We emit nitrous oxide, which is more harmful than carbon dioxide, and animal agriculture is responsible for 65% of our emissions. And then also just all the resources that it takes to process food and to feed animals, to water them, is also adding to greenhouse gas emissions, because water vapor is a greenhouse gas emission. Just some more facts. 56% of our clean water resources in the US are going to crops, not people. And obviously, we should know that we're going through a lot of drought issues, especially during the summer. California just went through a drought. So that's a huge issue. It takes 2,500 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of beef. So the equivalent, if you were trying to cut down your water resources, is you would have to go 6 months without a shower to make the equivalent of 1 hamburger.
Let's not do that.
Yeah. For all the resources we use for the animal foods and byproducts that we're processing, we waste twice as much as we're actually consuming. That goes back into the environment and is very harmful, obviously. If we were to have the whole world population eat at our level in the US, it would take 2 to 7 Earths to sustain us. And that link, if you go to it, it's on earthday.org. It'll just ask you a couple questions about your lifestyle, and it'll tell you how much your ecological footprint impacts the world, and it'll tell you like how many Earths it would take to sustain your lifestyle. I came out with 1.5 planets, so a typical meat eater, I think, came out with 2 to 5. So there's supposed to be 9 billion people on the planet by 2055. We currently grow enough food to feed 10 billion people, but more than half of that is going towards animals, not humans. So we could be solving world hunger if we were using that food for humans rather than livestock. 82% of impoverished children in the world live in countries where there's food being grown, there are crops that they don't get to eat that go towards livestock that is then imported to first world countries. So that's a huge issue. And a lot of people are into free range and ethical meat. It's a great idea, but unfortunately it's not feasible. It doesn't work for multiple reasons. First of all, free range is not actually better ethically for animals, and there's a link on there to explain why. It's still very problematic for the animals. And also, sustaining the world population with free range meat, we would have to have twice as much land as we currently do, so it wouldn't work. Animals used to make up 99% of the biomass, and now humans and the animals we grow for our food make up 98% of it. So it's flipped over the last 10,000 years. But basically this is like the most important thing. So if you were to eat a vegan diet, you would save 1,100 gallons of water a day, 45 pounds of grain, 30 square feet of forested land, 20 pounds of carbon dioxide, and 1 animal's life. And that's a link to where I got all these facts from, is cowspiracy.com. There's a documentary. I recommend you watch it if you're interested in environmentalism. Okay, this is the one I wanted to talk about most of. So the health benefits of going vegan, they're really great. So one of the biggest ones is lowering cholesterol, which is a huge issue, especially in the US population. The only place that you get dietary cholesterol is from animal byproducts and from meat. We're actually not supposed to be consuming dietary cholesterol because our bodies already make cholesterol that we need. So if you're worried about your cholesterol levels, that obviously is a huge impact on that. Going vegan can prevent diabetes. There's even been situations where people have basically cured their diabetes. They've been able to go off their meds completely just by switching to a plant-based diet. It prevents heart disease because your clogged arteries are mostly from eating a lot of red meat and dairy. That causes artery issues and needing bypass surgery, that kind of thing. It lowers your blood pressure and your blood sugar. It prevents a lot of cancers. Meat consumption has a direct causation to prostate cancer in men. Dairy consumption has a causation to breast cancer in women. And it also causes colon cancer in both sexes. And I have another link there just to let you know more details about how it affects cancer. There's this huge study that was a 15-year comprehensive study in China done that talks about how cancer relates to dairy and meat consumption. It's a really interesting study. It's very scientific, very statistically based. So there are links there if you're interested in reading more about it. And they also, in China, they also found, they were doing studies on osteoporosis, and they found that in areas where the dairy consumption was higher, the osteoporosis rate was also higher, which doesn't make sense if calcium is supposedly, in our dairy, is supposed to help with bones. That's actually not the case, mostly because when you consume dairy, it has natural acids in it, and it causes metabolic acidosis, which your body it needs to get rid of the acid, so it extracts your calcium from your bones to then get rid of the acid that you're consuming. So it's kind of the opposite of what the dairy industry has told us. Fun fact, The only reason dairy even exists in our lives today is because after World War II, they had a bunch of leftover like dairy powder, milk powder, because they used it as a protein source for the soldiers in the war. They didn't know what to do with it, so they're like, well, let's come up with a really solid campaign to convince people they need it. So weight loss, obviously, and those are 3 documentaries that I recommend if you're interested in finding out more about health and the other ethical issues with the meat and dairy industry as well. So these are some basic concerns that I know I always get asked: where do you get your protein? Actually getting protein on a plant-based diet is really easy. I don't even have to worry or go out of my way to find protein. It's naturally in most of your foods. It's just smaller in like fruits and veggies than it is in meat, for example. But beans, legumes, dark leafy greens, great sources of protein. You also are going to consume more of your protein because of the way the trophic scale. Have you guys heard of the trophic pyramid? It's just the idea that you lose energy with every step in the ecological world. So plants consuming a certain amount of energy, they only get 90% of the energy. The next level only gets 10% of that energy, 10% on the next level, 10% on the next level. So if we're eating plant-based protein, we consume 90% of it, but if we're eating meat-based protein, we only consume 10% of the protein that's available for us. Iron is similar. Iron is actually more concerning for vegans than protein is, but it's just a matter of making sure that you're eating a lot of vegetables because that's your best source of iron. Women would definitely want to look out for their iron deficiencies more than men. There are obviously supplements if that's something you are concerned about. Same thing with B12. You can take B12 vitamins and supplements. Since it's not, right, today we don't have B12 naturally in our food. That's honestly mostly because of genetically modified organisms. B12 is a natural bacteria, and because of the pesticides and the GMOs, it's no longer naturally in our foods. That's why we're not consuming it through plant-based sources anymore. And then these are some links if you're like athletic or you're concerned about being able to sustain a plant-based diet as an athlete. Another fun fact, 2014's World's Strongest Man is vegan. And we also just had a member of the US Olympic team who's the first male in the Olympics to be vegan in his class. I think he was rowing or something like that. Anyway, it was cool. So practical application, there's a lot of vegan alternatives if you are someone who wants to still include meat and dairy in your diet. There are different options. They are going to be a little bit more expensive, so that's something to consider. But they're still good sources of protein, and you'll get everything that you need from those, like the soy milks, the almond milks, that kind of thing. I personally don't buy a lot of those because I don't need them and it costs more money. I mostly live without fake meats, and I only ever drink like almond milk. So it's kind of up to you whether you're willing to spend more money or want to live like on a budget. I would just suggest if you're trying to stay on a budget, you stick to the basics. All those things are things that you can buy in bulk, and they're very easy to make simple meals with very quickly. And these are all places right here in our area from Orem, and then Trader Joe's, and Trader Joe's and Whole Foods are both up in Salt Lake. The rest of them are here locally. They all have wonderful vegan options available for them. They're also decently priced. I personally go to Sprouts. They have a 15% discount for students on Thursdays. Best advice I can give people is meal prep. Most of my friends that are vegan will prep their meals maybe on Sunday for the next week, and it makes it a lot easier because you can just like kind of grab and go. So you can make like bulk meals, portion them out through the week if that's something important to you, if you have like a busy schedule or something. If you're wanting more variety, it will take a little bit more time, but there's plenty of vegan websites where you can find fast recipes that are also diverse, that you can do for families, that are good for kids, plenty of resources online for that. And the ideal diet, honestly, would be 80% raw vegan, and the rest of your consumption would be whole, unprocessed foods. So eating raw vegan is like really easy because you don't cook anything. So eating lots of whole fruits, veggies, salads, smoothies, that kind of thing. And this is something that like my health professor at UVU even told me. That's like for anyone, even if you're not vegan, 80% of your diet should be raw. And these are all lovely things. I literally, all I did was go into Google and I searched vegan on a budget, and these were like only half of the sources that came up. So there's plenty of places online that you can find. Some of these were like, Forks Over Knives had a challenge where he only spent $1.50 on his food every day. I have a friend of mine, he only spends $35 a week on his food.
Wow.
So it's very possible. You just have to look at your options, decide what you're willing to spend, what you're not willing to give up for a vegan lifestyle, and just take into consideration what your life needs, like what are your commitments, and then plan accordingly. There are also lots of...
Sorry, I didn't interrupt your sentence.
Oh, you're fine.
Say we're into the Q&A time.
Yeah. So those are all the links. Like I said, I'll just post this on our website. And then these are other resources just for like facts and anything you need for like if you're interested in getting started, if you want to know more about environmental issues, animal ethics, that kind of thing. So that's basically all that.
About 10 minutes for Q&A. How hard do you think it would be to twist your friend's arm to have him post how he does that $35 a week thing? He's been here before, right?
Yes, yes.
Francis? Goes by Francis sometimes, yeah.
Yes. I was going to have Tosh tell. Well, oh, by the way, Tosh is a success story. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, if you don't mind, guys. In end of June, beginning of July, I started having a lot of pain in my feet. You know, that shooting sharp pain. And so I went to the doctor, freaking out. I'm like, what do I do? I'm 42, I have no insurance. Mine is that better? So here I am, I'm 42, I have no insurance, I'm a business owner, I'm stressed to the hilt all the time. What am I going to do? So they did some studies and found out it was pre-diabetic neuropathy, which you get that long enough that they start amputating, right? Well, it really scared me, and I went home, and not only did he give me more medicine for that, my cholesterol was high, my blood pressure was going up, I had to increase my blood pressure medicine. I was on anti-anxiety, antidepressant pills, mostly anxiety. I went home and said, I can't do this. I didn't go there with 1 pill and come back with 5. This is ridiculous. So I came home, did some research, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go vegan, let's see what happens. It can't hurt. And that was July 4th. July, August, it's now been, 2.5, almost 3 months. I'm on all blood pressure medicine, all cholesterol medicine. My diabetic neuropathy is totally gone. No more pain, no more anxiety. All my anxiety medication was on for 5 years, gone. I have more energy, I've lost 20 pounds. For me, the big thing is, does it grow that way? If it grows that way, I'm gonna eat it. And I'm 98% vegan. I mean, I do like a ranch dressing here and there. You know, Cafe Rio.
Avocado's a great replacement.
Cafe Rio. So now what I do is when I go to Cafe Rio, I get as vegan as I can, and I have this almond ranch that I get at Ginger's in Springville. And I mix it up, and that's my ranch, and I'm happy. So for me, in 2.5 months, to see that much improvement is huge. So that's my big thing.
Cool.
Thank you, Tosh. Anyway, to answer your question, Jeff, you just asked like how he does $35 a day?
Yeah, I wonder if he would post like an example menu or weekly shopping list, because that's interesting to me.
So he does it pretty simply. Like he basically eats oats for breakfast almost every day. So and breakfast is like really hard for a lot of people. I often skip it, but obviously you shouldn't skip breakfast. So even if you're doing the same meal every day and it's very simple, it's better than not eating breakfast. So he just eats cooked oats every morning. He'll like on Sundays he makes like a big vat of like soup, for example. Like I know he makes his own seitan, which is like a meat alternative, and you can make it at home. I just don't know how. And so then he'll just portion it throughout the week, and just put it into like containers, freeze it, and then takes it out. And then like, maybe he'll change up his dinner like every day. So that's kind of like what I'm planning on doing. So I'm going raw vegan starting October 1st. So it's just like making 2 meals a day, or like if you're doing 6 mini meals, 4 of your meals really simple. And then the other ones you can spend a little bit more time on since you're home in the evenings. I think that's the easiest way for me to do it. So that's just like some of my advice. And like I said, when I post this on our websites, you guys can click any of the links and read other people's experiences as well. Do you have a question, Mary?
You might have answered a little bit. I've just found ever since I've been on my own a little bit more, like I don't need as much food, and like I'll just sometimes even eat like cottage cheese and vegetables at the same, like, and I'm not interested in going full vegan right now. It's just I don't feel like that works for me. But I've been watching like this vegan channel, Kate Flowers on YouTube. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she does a lot of vegan recipes that I'm interested in. I'm like, I think there's a way to like combine the two, and especially if you're like needing to save some money, if you don't have a large paycheck, then you can save a little money and like kind of, do one or the other, or, combine the two. But that's just me. Like is there a way to do that easier? Like,
yeah, for sure. Well, and that's why at the beginning I included the spectrum of vegetarianism, because I don't want people to feel like they have to go just vegan and that's it.
Right.
And also my best advice, if you guys are interested in like moving towards a vegan diet, I would definitely suggest doing it slowly. Don't do it cold turkey like I did.
Like I did.
It can be very difficult, but if you're going to do it slowly, you have to give yourself like a time period. Otherwise, I've known people that are like have said, "Oh, I'm eventually going to go vegan," and they've been vegetarian for 10 years and never actually went vegan. So you just have to like give yourself a timeline. But as far as like combining it, like I said, doing like vegan, like raw vegan, like half the time, and then the other rest of your diet can include like eggs, because eggs are healthy for you. They're not necessary, but they do have a lot of good things in them, so including eggs, some non-fat, like dairies, I would suggest are also like a healthier option.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, you just kind of eat vegetables occasionally. That's actually like not a bad thing. Like one of the best things you can do for meal planning is doing 6 mini meals instead of 3 large meals, because it's better for your metabolism and your dietary system to kind of like portion it out throughout the day a little bit better. So if you're just eating, like sometimes I'll literally have one of my 6 meals be like raw peppers, and that's like all I eat, so you can definitely do that.
Well, I guess the hardest thing is like there are just some things that I call happiness, and that's like ice cream and other things. And I know that there's probably other alternative options for those. So like, what can you do to replace like things like ice cream and like those treats that you love to eat, that are sweet?
There's coconut milk ice cream and almond milk ice cream.
Okay. Yeah, I mean those ones are pretty obvious. So like,
yeah, no, definitely. If like I understand, because I have a horrible sweet tooth, which is bad for me. But definitely, there's literally an alternative to everything. I'm not kidding. Give me any idea for a meal that is not vegan, and I can tell you how to veganize it. It's possible for anything. So there's like vegan alternatives for chicken. There's vegan alternatives for steak. There's vegan alternatives for fish. There's even like a vegan egg now. It's like pretty spendy, but it's there.
and that's the other thing. Like, yeah, there are some things you can get without going to like a health food store that could be considered vegan. But like, how do you save money when you're trying like coconut ice cream? That seems like a lot. Like it would be a lot.
I've
of money.
never gotten into the coconut or almond or anything. I'm not vegan, so I'm not gonna preach. But sorbet, there are dairy-free sorbets that are just delicious.
That is true.
You can forget about the chocolate and things a little bit when you're sitting there eating some of that.
Yeah. Most traditional sorbets are always vegan, and then like chocolate, and most dark chocolates that are unprocessed are going to be vegan as well. The only ones that aren't are like if you get a Hershey's dark chocolate bar, they often have milk in it anyways.
Well, I like dark chocolates. I think there's a way to like combine the two worlds, because I found a lot of actually really good, healthier options than our processed crap that we have. So.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of people that I know kind of have like a cheat day. Like, have you guys heard of raw tofu?
What is it called?
Raw tofu. He's not a vegan, but this dietitian came up with this plan to be raw tofu. So you eat a raw plant-based diet until 4, and then after that you can eat cooked foods. And then like he kind of gave himself one cheat day a week where he ate sugar processed foods that like everyone kind of craves occasionally. So that's something I would suggest. And like because there is like a price differentiation between vegan alternatives and the normal stuff, like I would definitely say you can still buy it, but having the price differentiation will also help you to kind of to curb it, to make sure that you're not always buying ice cream, because like I would buy way too many sweets when I wasn't vegan, like every single week, and now knowing that I don't have as many of those options available,
Right.
Which is fine by me, by the way, but like you can find them, but it's made me a little bit more health conscious, and so I'm not consuming as much sugar on a daily basis as I was before.
Let's talk more. I'm interested.
Got one more minute.
There's a website, lighter.world. It's a service they want you to subscribe to, but they have vegan, plant-based meal plans depending on, and it's people that like she was linking to, Dr. Michael Greger of nutritionfacts.org. He puts up his meal plan, and it's like, this is a week of vegan meals with recipes. Their service is like, will buy the groceries and deliver it to your house, but they have the meal plans for free, and it's anything from raw to like with the fake meats, like anything in between. And it's also got athletes, so you can follow the athletes' meal plans. It's got busy parents, and it's like, here's their meal plan. So if you want to check that out, that's something that I've used. So.
Good idea. There's also PETA also has on their website a vegan challenge. I think it's 21 days, and it gives you all of their meal plans for the 21 days of a vegan diet, just to try it out. So you can find that on PETA's website as well.
Cool.
Did you have a question?
We're just debating who was going to talk, because he was going to talk about buying local, and I was going to talk about the awesomeness of the programs that are local. So we're about to hit the same topic.
Yeah, no, buying local if you can is definitely preferable. Like I live right down the road from a farmer's stand, so if you can buy local, oftentimes it's going to be a little bit cheaper, and then it's also often going to be like better for you because it's not nearly as processed.
Right, well there are things like you pick farms, and you go and you pick it, it's cheaper. And there are things like bountiful baskets where you can help and choose basket things are a little cheaper. But there's, the farmers markets and Wilkerson's farm, where you can use card, you can use cash, but if you qualify for SNAP, or if anybody is in that category and knows someone, they double up. So basically, up to $20, I think it is, they give you the same amount, something. You get a little bit more free, so those who are living in poverty can afford just a little more of their cheaper fruits and vegetables. It's a useful program to know about. Okay.
All right, time's up. Thanks everybody for coming, and thanks Kelly. Let's hear it one more time for Kelly. We always do the 20 minutes and then 10 minutes Q&A, and that's because we only hit a hard deadline so that the kids program doesn't get overwhelmed. But we always expect the conversation to continue. So keep asking Kelly your questions. Just now the formal meeting's over, so the parents can get the kids. Thanks everybody for coming. Let's give the mic to somebody else.